What up, reader fam? Welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be sharing with you 5 of the best books I've read so far in 2021. I just felt like today was the day for a good old book gush. Not that any of you guys need me to add any more books to your TBR, but that might happen today. I don't know. I'm sorry in advance, but I'm also not sorry at all. I always get really overwhelmed come December when I have to reflect on my year of reading and pick out the books that were the best of the year. So I thought doing a midway point, a little pit stop here in the middle of the year, and doing some reflecting now and picking out some of my favorite books and sharing them with you would be good. A good idea. I've got 5 books that have won over my heart so far this year. I'll admit that not a lot of books have reached that favorite level for me this year. A lot of them have almost reached favorite level, but not a lot have full on reach favorite level. I don't know if I've become more picky as time has gone on, or if I'm just not picking up books that are doing it for me, but I'm going to share with you today some books that did it for me this year. So without further ado, let's get started. First up here we have The Magic Fish. This is a graphic novel that weaves together 3 different storylines. First up, we've got a boy who is struggling to communicate with his parents because they speak a different language than him, and he has this desire to tell them that he's gay, but he's having a hard time because he just can't communicate with them. We get a little peek at the life that his mom led and how she left Vietnam, and we see the fairy tales that Tien uses to connect with his parents. This book is just a beautiful journey through and through. It's beautiful, enchanting, amazing, magnificent, just all the beautifulness. Sometimes I can leave graphic novels feeling a little bit incomplete. I'm not sure if it's just because it's a different type of storytelling and you don't always get everything that you need, or at least I don't get everything that I need leaving graphic novels sometimes. But this one gave me everything I needed. It put everything in a box, wrapped it up, and gave it to me as a present. And I gladly accepted that present. It was just so nice to have a graphic novel wrap up so beautifully and to also do a really great job of executing all these different storylines kind of weaving together. And it was also really cool to see how each story in a lot of ways reflected each other. They might have been dealing with different circumstances, but the way that they handled it and got through it all were in a lot of ways similar. While it doesn't necessarily dig super deep to everything that's brought up, it still does a really great job of exploring all these different ideas that come up along the way, and it pairs a great story with incredibly beautiful artwork. This artwork in here is just stunning. I love the line work. I love that each story had its own color to kind of differentiate it from the other. It's just an incredibly well done graphic novel, one that will just stick in your mind and stay with you as you move on in life. I highly recommend checking it out. Next up, we've got These Violent Delights. This is a very, very, very loose Romeo and Juliet retelling. We follow Juliet and Roma, who are on opposing sides. We've got Juliet, who is a part of the Scarlet Guard, and Roma, who is a part of the White Flowers. These gangs have been rivals for years, but they might have to set that rivalry aside as there's been a bit of an outbreak. That outbreak being that people are getting infected and tearing out their own throats. Cute! Together they must figure out what's behind this gruesome outbreak. While I love this book, and it definitely was a favorite of mine this year, I'm not gonna go around recommending it left and right just because I know that it's one that not everybody is going to love. I just gotta say, don't take the violent part of this title lightly. It is violent, it is gruesome, it is bloody. Bloody. Even I went into this one being yeah, it's not gonna be that violent. It's violent. Just the descriptions of even people ripping out their throats. Gruesome! Bloody! Gross! Nasty! Also just the whole insect aspect of all of this just really gave me chills. I don't really love bugs as is, and just this kind of heightened that distaste for insects. I loved each and every character that we came in contact with within this book. I mean, except for the characters that are there to hate. There's obviously characters within here that you're just can you go away? Why are you here? You're annoying as heck. But we've got to have those annoying characters to kind of balance things out. You can't love every single character. Juliet in particular is the character that I loved so much. Mind you, I know that she is a character that probably a lot of people are not going to like. In my opinion, she kind of rides the line between likable character and unlikable character, but I really felt like she just carried this book on her back. Had we not had Juliet, this book would have been so boring. Roma, I'm sorry to all my Roma lovers out there, but boy is stale as heck. I'm hoping we get a little bit more from him in the next book, but in comparison to Juliet, you just can't compare the two because Juliet is better. I said what I said. Juliet is this fierce and striking character, and she just was a massive standout in my opinion. I was a little nervous going into this one that it would be a little bit too much on the romance side for me to handle, but thank the heavens that was not the case. Mind you, there is a bit of a romance situation happening here, but it's not the focal point of our story. story. There's lots of tension there, and it's definitely more of a slow burn situation, and I almost feel like in the next book, in book 2, that the romance will definitely be heightened. I really enjoyed seeing Roma and Juliet having to come together to work together. There's a lot of tension there, just so much tension. The water is boiling, it's about to spill over. I feel like it's gonna spill over like crazy in book 2, but it was just fun seeing this kind of like unlikely pairing having to come together to work together, and also knowing that they have a lot of history and being able to see bits of that history throughout the book. I think that my favorite part of this book in general was just the mystery behind the freaking pulling out of the throat, just the ripping out of the throat, just the gruesomeness of that, and like figuring out what's behind that, who's behind that, what's going on all there. That part to me was the most engaging part of this story. I really loved it. Again, it's not a book that I would say that everybody is going to love, but I personally really loved it. And I can't wait for book 2. Next up on my list, I've got Moshimoshi. This is a story about a girl whose father has passed away due to suicide, and she feels he's trying to get in contact with her through his old phone. This is one that I actually don't feel comfortable like really full on recommending, just because I feel like a lot of people won't love it, but I personally just really loved it, so I'm gonna talk about it, but I'm not gonna be like, go out and read it necessarily. If me talking about it interests you at all, then like give it a try, but just know that it's not one that I feel like I can full on recommend. And I think a part of that is because it's not one that is really focused on the plot. It's more so focused on this kind of journey of grief. And that's the thing that for me, I like fell into in reading this book. When I went into it, I really thought that I would be like pulled in by the mystery of like this girl feeling like her father is contacting her from the dead through his phone. But that aspect really does not come into play till like really late in the story, like maybe 120 pages into the story is when that like really starts to come into play. And the book itself is only a little over 200 pages. There were just so many lines that I full on resonated with and just like tugged at my heartstrings. It felt like the author just knew exactly how to put into words the journey of grief and what that's like to go through that, to go through the process of losing someone. She doesn't really sugarcoat the idea of grief in any way. Mind you, she does explain it in this like really poetic and beautiful way, but she's also like, yeah, it sucks to lose somebody. There were just so many beautiful lines that just hit so close to home. On top of that, we have an incredible mother-daughter relationship. It's not always easy, and the daughter sometimes does kind of resent her mom, because essentially what happens is that the daughter moves away after her father passes away, and then her mom is like, hey, I'm just gonna come move in with you. And so that kind of causes a bit of like tension between their relationship, but at the end of the day, they love each other, they have an understanding for each other, and they really respect each other. It's a very atmospheric novel. I forgot to mention that it takes place in Japan. This is a Japanese translated work of fiction. There are so many different Japanese references in here from different places in Japan to pop culture. Each time a place was mentioned or a piece of pop culture was mentioned, I would set the book down and Google it just because I wanted to know what it was referencing and what it was adding to the story exactly. And for me, that was a lot of fun, but it did severely slow down my reading pace of this story. This book took me like 4 months to read, maybe 5 months to read. It took me a really long time to read, and not because it was hard to read at any point, but just because I was taking my time kind of digesting the information I was getting and also like Googling all the things that pop up throughout it. Again, while I loved this book, I just can't fully recommend it just because I would be afraid to recommend it and then have you guys end up hating it. If you're okay with a book that doesn't necessarily focus on the plot and more so focuses on kind of a journey of like self-healing, self-discovery, and atmosphere, then I would definitely recommend this book. But if you're somebody that needs more of a plot focus, I wouldn't necessarily recommend this one. This is making me realize how self-conscious I can be in recommending books, but I'm just afraid of recommending a book that people won't like. But you can't please everybody. You just can't. Next on my list, I have The Lucky List. This is a story about a girl who loses her mother due to cancer, and her dad has decided that they are going to move to a different house, and so he's going to sell all of her mom's things. And this is obviously really hard for our main character, Emily. She's just lost her mom. She's still struggling to accept the idea that her mom is gone, and now her dad is wanting to sell all these things that mean a lot to her. In going through her mom's stuff, she finds a bucket list that her mom had her senior year. And it just so happens that it's the summer before Emily is going into her senior year. So Emily decides that she is going to complete everything on this bucket list that she found in order to feel closer to her mom. This is like the perfect summer read, so if you're gonna read this one, you've got a few months left of summer. Actually, when does summer end? Okay, I googled it and summer officially ends on September 22nd, so you've got like a month and a half to read this book. I mean, you can read it outside of summer, but I just feel like it's the perfect summer read. This book made me realize how much I love books that have bucket lists in them, so if you've got recommendations for me, please hit me up down below in the comments. It just adds such a fun element to the story. I know that a lot of like bucket list books end up being pretty similar to each other, but listen, I don't care. I don't care. I love a bucket list in a book. It's just so fun watching a character go through a list and complete all these different things and seeing the things that they learn along the way. I feel like something that I loved in this book is that while our main character Emily is kind of going through this list to kind of feel closer to her mom, throughout the process, while she is connecting with her mom and feeling closer to her, she's also feeling closer to herself and connecting with herself. So in the end, it starts to become more of a self-discovery book, and I really loved that about it. As you find out what's on the bucket list, you're just kind of like, okay, these are like really generic things, but I think the author did a really great job of like making them really fun and exciting at times, a little risky at times, and she just did a really good job of like taking kind of this generic bucket list and making it really fun and exciting. This book does have a bit of a romance element, and you guys know how I typically feel about romances in YA, but I loved the romance in this one. It was just so wholesome and pure. Emily ends up developing feelings for one of her friends named Blake, and throughout the story she's just like, what are these feelings? Why am I feeling this way about her? And just the progression of the relationship was so pure. While this book does deal with grief quite a bit, it doesn't drown it out to a point where it makes the book depressing in any way. It's still a very light-hearted and fun read, and I highly recommend checking it out. Again, this summer, do it! Read it during the summertime! And the last book on my list is actually one that I read really recently, and that is Sunny Song Will Never Be Famous. This story follows Sunny Song, who is an influencer, and her parents ship her off to a social media detox camp. I did not expect to love this book as much as I did. Honestly, going into it, I thought it might end up being a little bit too preachy about social media and how it can kind of have a negative effect on us. And don't get me wrong, it does kind of dissect social media and how it can kind of affect us in a negative way, but it in no way makes you feel guilty for using social media and interacting with social media. So in no way is it like, social media is evil. It has so many comedic moments throughout it. I was laughing while reading it. Let's be real, influencer culture can be ridiculous at times and can often lend itself to being poked at and made fun of. And this book does a good job of like poking fun at it, but also like respecting it for what it is. And I appreciated that about it. Just in general, it was a really interesting look at social media as a whole and all the different people that are using it and the ways that they're using it. I also really liked the exploration of growing up as a kid who went viral as a baby, because our main character Sunny Song ended up going viral as a child, and that kind of stuck with her throughout her life. And it was just really interesting kind of seeing the long-lasting effects that had on her growing up. Overall, it's just a really fun read, and I loved following our main character Sunny Song. I thought that she was hilarious. And again, this is another great book to read over the summer because it takes place over the summer at a camp. I read Suzanne Parks' debut book, The Perfect Escape, and this is definitely a level up. Like, I really enjoyed this book, but she stepped up her game for Sunny Song Will Never Be Famous. I highly recommend checking it out. Okay guys, so those are 5 of the best books that I've read so far in the year of 2021. I'm hoping by the end of the year that I'll have a lot more favorites than this, but we will see. You guys should let me know down below in the comments if you have read any of these books, and if so, what your thoughts are on them. Even if you didn't love them like I did, I still want to hear your opinions. Let me know them down below in the comments. I always welcome unpopular opinions here, or rather disagreeing opinions. Also, let me know down below in the comments some of the best books that you've read so far this year, and one that you would recommend. If you like this video, be sure to go and hit that like button. If you want to see more bookish content from me, be sure to go and hit subscribe or go and hit that bell icon, and you'll be notified every time I post new videos. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. I hope your day is bright, that tomorrow is brighter. Keep reading what your heart desires, and I will see you soon with a new video. Bye, yo!